is Harley Davidson looking at their apparel to attract newer, younger riders. Alright everybody, what is up? What is up? As always, thanks for stopping by to another video today. We are outside the city. We are actually out near Lancaster, PA. As you can see, horse and buggy right there. Roaming around a little bit through Amish territory of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and out on this little ride today. I did stop at Lancaster Harley Davidson, and I usually like to stop in dealerships when I come across them out of my travels. Usually just, I don't know, whatever, you know, just stop in, take a look around, see what's going on. They always make for a good pit stop if you've been riding for a while. Go to the bathroom, take a drink, look where you need to go next, whatever, stuff like that. But one thing that I have started to notice lately when I'm stopping in some of these dealerships, and a little bit with Harley Davidson's marketing lately, is what seems to be a little bit of a shift in strategy with some of their marketing and apparel and partnerships and different things like that. And what I mean by that is some of their apparel and partnerships and different kind of like influencer marketing type things that they're starting to do seems to trying to be making a shift to attracting younger riders or newer riders. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Because if you guys are familiar with Harley or kind of the American cruiser segment in general, there's oftentimes a lot of talk about kind of like, I don't know, the declining sales or the declining interest in that segment. And at this point in time, you do see a little bit of like strange uncertainty within these brands with the recent news of Polaris selling off a majority of their share in Indian to a private equity company. Not to say that's good or bad, or, you know, I don't have any indication one way or the other of what that really means. We'll see how it plays out. But you also hear a lot of the times about Harley's riders really kind of like aging out of motorcycles, aging out of the big heavy cruisers, and them not doing enough to really kind of replace that rider with a newer, younger generation of riders. Could it lead to their downfall, this or that? A little bit of that I think is a little extreme sometimes. I don't see Harley or Indian really failing. I mean, anytime in the near future. These are really large companies. They're like almost too big to like actually fail at some points, but that's not to say that they're not having a little bit of their issues with sales and decreased demand and decreased sales across all of their different cruisers and categories and things like that. I think a lot of times that's cyclical and impacted by, you know, uncertainty in the world right now, inflation, high costs, and driving down interest in motorcycles and less discretionary spending and things like that. But anyways, coming back to the apparel thing and what I think Harley Davidson might be subtly doing, somewhat of an anecdotal story here, and this might just be me, but let me know if you guys have ever come across somewhat of a similar scenario. I've come across several people now kind of around the area of Philadelphia. You know, I see people wearing like a Harley shirt. I'll typically go up to them, you know, ask them, oh cool, you know, start a conversation, you know, you got a bike, what bike you riding? And on multiple different occasions, I've had people tell me, oh no, I don't have a bike. First of all, that's a topic for another day. I'm not going to get into that, but I think if you don't have one or ride, then you shouldn't necessarily be wearing a shirt. I don't want to sound like an old boomer there, but I think if you don't have one or you don't come from the culture or whatever it is, it's strange to be wearing a Harley Davidson shirt. But you know, I start talking to them a little bit more, just kind of like making conversation, diving in, and on those occasions they say, no, you know, I just really kind of like the shirt, like the culture. I've really been thinking about riding, really been thinking about getting into motorcycles. I just got to learn how to ride, definitely planning on maybe getting one soon. And again, I don't know if that's just me and some of the people that I have encountered. Let me know if you guys have ever encountered that, where people are getting interested in Harley Davidson and the culture because of the apparel. And so is Harley Davidson trying to somewhat reverse that strategy to try to attract newer, younger riders with some of the different new apparel and partnerships? I'll get to the partnerships in just a second. And I think a lot of this kind of started with a little bit of like the online Instagram, YouTube influencers and things like that. You see a lot of them. A lot of them are kind of in that younger Gen X to millennial age range, and that's kind of opposite of what you would typically think. You know, you get people into the bike, you get them into all the other stuff, apparel, parts, accessories, and all of that. But then you've also had some of the ideas and thoughts and conversations around Harley not having really like an entry-level bike at this point. You know, they got rid of the traditional Sportster. Of course, they have the Sportster S, the Nightster, some of the smaller Softails like my Street Bob that I'm on. I know they're coming out with whatever this new thing is, like a Sprint 400 or whatever. I don't know how that's really going to work to attract newer riders, but I think they're really putting a focus on trying to attract newer, younger riders with apparel and brand partnerships. Now, getting into some of the brand partnerships, you saw this maybe like a year and a half ago with some of the new ways that Harley has been putting out apparel. And we've seen this in 3 different instances that I can think of that I'll run through here quickly. We saw them partner with Champion. So of course, some of you guys out there have probably been familiar with Champion over the years. A long time ago, they were kind of like the low budget athletic apparel type brand that you got at your Kmart's, your Walmart's, your Value Cities, and things like that. And somehow Champion, the brand, came back with this crazy resurgence with like the Gen X millennial crowd. It got super popular. The demand for this stuff just went crazy. It skyrocketed their prices. And now it's kind of this like younger, hipster-esque type brand. And you saw Harley partner with them for some of their hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, things like that about a year and a half ago. I've got to assume that was really in the hopes of attracting some of that market. So if you get some of them into the apparel first, you get them in the stores, they're buying this stuff, then they start to get into the culture a little bit more. Can you start to turn that into a newer, younger rider? And then, of course, the second example I have of that is when they partnered with the brand Dickies. So again, I'm sure you all probably remember a long time ago, Dickies, a workman's brand, blue collar brand. They go ahead and partner with Dickies because Dickies also kind of had that shift to where somewhere along the line, I don't know when or how it happened, but they also kind of became very popular into this like Gen X millennial type age group. So then again, you saw that partnership. You saw them partnering on some of the jackets, some of the hats, t-shirts, long sleeves, and things like that. And then the third one and most recent one is you saw Harley Davidson partner with apparel for Realtree. So Realtree, again, not necessarily known as a millennial Gen X brand, but if you do take a look at some of Realtree's branding and marketing, all of the people in those types of ads are a little bit younger, a little bit more diverse populations. So Harley goes ahead, partners with them for some of their new camo apparel, hats, t-shirts, long sleeves, jackets, hoodies, all that stuff. I'm assuming in the hopes to attract some of that demographic to hopefully get them into motorcycles with the apparel. They think it's cool, it's hip, it's culture, it's all that good stuff. So then maybe they hopefully get into the brand and start riding and buying a bike, which again seems a little counterintuitive when you're supposed to be a motorcycle company. You want to get people in the bikes, on the bikes, and riding. Then you sell them all the other stuff, the apparel, the parts, the accessories, all that good stuff. But is this a subtle new shift in strategy for Harley Davidson, and is it working? Because like I said, with a little bit of those stories, I run into some of these people along my way through some of my travels. I see them wearing some of these shirts. The Champion ones were huge. I saw several people out around the city of Philadelphia wearing those, asked them about it, and they said, no, I don't necessarily have a bike, but I just thought the collaboration was cool, thought the shirt was cool and everything like that. But I have been getting around the dealers, checking out bikes. It kind of has me interested. I just need to learn how to ride, and then I'll be interested in getting a motorcycle. Now again, that does seem to have all happened under the old regime of Johann Zeitz. Obviously they've got the new guy coming in. I think as of this video being made, I think he just started like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago. I think his name, what's his name, RD Stars or something like that. Will that continue to be a strategy or a path moving forward for Harley Davidson? Will you see more collaborations with brands that traditionally have had a younger demographic that they are marketing to? I think we will. I think we'll continue to see Harley try to do some more of these types of partnerships in the hopes of really attracting and retaining some of the younger demographic, because like we always talk about, we say Harley's core demographic is aging out of motorcycles possibly, and this could potentially be one of their subtle new strategies of trying to get newer, younger riders in the door. You partner with these brands that are already very specifically focused on that younger demographic and age group. You get them in the door, try to get them in that apparel, and then you start to try to sell them on the bikes afterwards. So is that a little bit of a roundabout way to go about it? I don't know. Is it the right way? Is it the right thing? Who knows? But as we all know, everybody says Harley's demographic, the older demographic that's into the big American style cruiser motorcycles, is dying off. They're aging out. They've got to do something to replace those riders. I don't believe that it's as desperate as a lot of people make it seem, but it is definitely a concern for them, and we will continue to see if this is one of the strategies that they continue to use moving forward. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Is that what Harley is anticipating and trying to do with a lot of these new brand and apparel partnerships? Is it going to work? Are they trying to attract newer, younger riders with these partnerships? I think that's a piece of it. There's probably a lot more to the story than what I just went through, but just something that I have kind of noticed recently, stopping in dealers, interacting with people throughout some of my travels and things like that. Interesting idea and thought that I had in my head as I've been out there on the road and thinking about some of this stuff. But that'll go ahead and wrap this one up for now. We're going to finish up a trip back into the city of Philadelphia. As always, guys, thanks for stopping by. If you like anything we got going on here, make sure you go ahead and like this video, drop a comment down there, and subscribe to the channel. As always, make it a good one, guys. It's the Moto John. We'll see you all on down the road. Peace.